You keep telling yourself it's just timing, but timing starts sounding like an excuse when it takes this long. You've done the responsible things. You've refined your offer, tightened your budget, applied for the roles, reached out to the clients, posted the work, followed up, rebuilt your resume, sharpened your skills, stayed consistent even when it didn't feel rewarding. You've carried the weight of not yet with a face that looks calm enough that nobody asks how heavy it's gotten. And still, the breakthrough won't arrive. Not the dramatic kind. Not the viral moment. Not the overnight miracle you already know not to trust. You're not even asking for fireworks. You're asking for movement. A sign that the door is actually opening. A call back. A yes. A raise. A contract. A month where the numbers finally lift without you bleeding to get them there. Instead, you're living in the most unnerving financial atmosphere of all. Effort without echo. So let me ask you the question that cuts through the fog. What if the delay isn't denial? What if the delay is the threshold? An in-between passage where your wealth is being rebuilt beneath the surface. And the reason it feels so slow is because the next expansion requires a structure you don't fully have yet. If you're in this phase, you know the emotional texture of it. It's waking up with that quiet pressure behind your ribs, like your day starts with a bill you haven't even been handed yet. It's checking your account more often than you want to admit. Not because you're reckless, but because your nervous system needs proof that you're still safe. It's hearing people talk about big wins and feeling your smile tighten because you're happy for them, but you're also tired of being the person who's almost there. It's the strange humiliation of delayed reward. You can handle hard work. You can handle discipline. You can handle strategy. But what wears you down is not knowing if the strategy is working. If you're building something real, or if you're just moving in circles to keep your fear busy. And that's where the self-blame gets sharp. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I missed my moment. Maybe I chose the wrong path. Maybe I'm not one of those people who gets to expand. Maybe I'm destined for stability at best and struggle at worst. Maybe I'm secretly irresponsible, and this delay is life punishing me for wanting more. So you try to fix it with more motion, because motion feels like control. You add more hours. You take on work that doesn't fit. You discount yourself to get the yes. You say yes to the draining client because cash is cash. You chase opportunities that don't respect you because you're tired of waiting for the one that does. But even when money comes in, it doesn't land like relief. It lands like temporary permission to breathe. And that's how you know this isn't only a money problem. It's a threshold problem. Because when you're in the middle, you don't just doubt your plan. You doubt your identity. You start wondering who you are if you don't make it soon. You start questioning whether your ambition is wisdom or delusion. You start bargaining with your own dreams, not because you stopped wanting them, but because wanting them has started to hurt. This is why the delay feels personal. Because it's not only delaying an outcome, it's pressurizing a becoming. There's a truth most people never learn until life forces it into their hands. Growth doesn't happen at the pace your fear demands. Your fear wants quick movement because quick movement feels like safety. It wants proof. It wants reassurance. It wants the next level to arrive fast enough that you don't have to sit with uncertainty long enough for old wounds to speak. But wealth is not only built by desire. Wealth is built by capacity. And capacity isn't always loud. Sometimes capacity is the hidden reorganization that happens right before the next level can hold. This is where temporal threshold cycles becomes an interpretive lens that changes the meaning of what you're living. It names the delay before expansion phase without insulting you. It says there are stretches of time where nothing looks like it's moving, but something is shifting underneath. Identity consolidating, strategy refining, tolerance strengthening, systems forming, discernment sharpening, nervous system recalibrating to receive without panicking. Because here's what nobody tells you when they sell you motivation. Expansion without structure becomes collapse with prettier branding. A fast yes you can't fulfill becomes a reputation wound. A sudden income jump without boundaries becomes burnout. A breakthrough without self-trust becomes self-sabotage. So life sometimes holds the breakthrough back, not as cruelty, but as intelligence. It forces a slower becoming so the growth can last. And once you can see that, you stop calling the delay a dead end. You start asking what the threshold is teaching you about wealth, that you would never learn in a season where money flows easily. Because easy money can hide weak foundations. Threshold money reveals them. Threshold cycles aren't a modern productivity concept. They're ancient enough to be embedded in how humans have always told the truth about change. In mythic structures across cultures, the transformation never happens in the beginning. The beginning is a departure. The transformation happens in the in-between, the wilderness, the desert, the long night, the place where the old identity can't follow you, but the new identity hasn't arrived to hold you yet. That middle was never portrayed as glamorous, and that's the point. The middle is where the person is stripped down to what's real. Initiation rites carried the same architecture in lived form. People were removed from their ordinary role, placed into liminal space, tested by uncertainty and pressure, and then returned, changed. Not because time passed, but because something inside them reorganized. The liminal phase was the mechanism. It was where the old life loosened its grip, and the new life became possible. Even ancient timing philosophies understood this difference between ordinary time and threshold time. Ordinary time is what you can schedule and measure. Threshold time is what changes you while you're waiting. It's time that doesn't feel productive because it isn't producing output. It's producing readiness. Now bring that lens into wealth, and you can finally name the phase you've been living. There are seasons where you build visibility. There are seasons where you build skill. There are seasons where you build income. And then there are threshold seasons where you build the internal and structural capacity to hold what you've been asking for. This is why the delay can feel like pressure. It's not empty time. It's compressive time. It's the part of the cycle that makes you confront everything in you that would collapse under expansion. your relationship with risk, your relationship with receiving, your boundaries, your pricing, your self-worth, your patience, your consistency, your fear of being seen, your fear of being judged, your fear of succeeding and having to maintain it. And you can see this pattern in real wealth stories all the time. Even when people only talk about the highlight. You see it in the entrepreneur who spends months in a plateau where nothing seems to grow. But during that plateau, they quietly build systems, better onboarding, clearer messaging, a stronger offer, cleaner delivery, fewer leaks. Then momentum returns, and it looks sudden to the outside. But it wasn't sudden. It was earned in the threshold where they stopped chasing noise and started building structure. You see it in corporate careers too. A person does excellent work, expects advancement, and then a freeze hits. Budgets tighten, leadership shifts, promotions stall. It feels like rejection. But sometimes that pause becomes the season where they build leverage, a new skill, a stronger portfolio, a reputation that travels, relationships that open doors later. The delay wasn't a denial. It was a corridor. You see it in broader economic cycles, when entire industries tighten and opportunities narrow. People interpret it as personal failure and burn themselves out trying to force results in a contraction environment. But the people who survive and later expand are often the ones who learn threshold behavior, conserve, refine, reposition, deepen competence, build resilience, prepare for the next opening instead of gambling their health for instant proof. And you see it in personal earning identity shifts too. When someone outgrows the version of themselves who accepted less, they start charging differently, negotiating differently, choosing differently. The first season of that shift is rarely rewarded immediately because it's awkward. It's the season where they lose access to what was convenient and haven't yet gained access to what's aligned. That awkward middle is a threshold. It's expensive emotionally, but it's where dignity becomes real. This is why you feel what you feel now. You're not only waiting on money, you're waiting on the version of you who can hold it without collapsing into old survival. And that version is being built in the delay. So what do you do when you realize you might be in a threshold cycle financially? You stop demanding that the middle look like the end. Then you start treating the delay like a classroom instead of a courtroom. The first adjustment is to stop measuring progress only by visible outcomes. In threshold seasons, the most important progress is often invisible. The habit of showing up without panic, the ability to keep your nervous system steady while you wait, the capacity to stay consistent without rage quitting, the discernment to stop chasing opportunities that cost you your dignity. Those are wealth skills. They don't look like money at first, but they determine whether money stays when it arrives. The second adjustment is to audit your leaks with honesty, not shame. Threshold time exposes the places you've been spending energy and money to avoid discomfort. Subscriptions you don't use, impulse purchases that soothe stress, underpricing that trades stability for approval. scattered offers that drain you, emotional labor you provide for free because you're afraid of being disliked. You don't fix leaks by hating yourself. You fix them by seeing clearly. The third adjustment is to consolidate your focus. When you're desperate for movement, you spread yourself thin, hoping something will hit. But threshold cycles punish scatter. They reward depth. This is a season to choose fewer priorities and do them well. One offer that's clear, one skill you deepen, one pipeline you build, one relationship you nurture, one habit you stabilize. Wealth doesn't always expand through more. Sometimes it expands through refinement. The fourth adjustment is to protect your standards under pressure. This is where the threshold tests you. When money feels tight, you'll be tempted to say yes to what harms you, because harm looks better than uncertainty. But if you keep saying yes to misaligned work, you don't just delay your breakthrough, you train your life to believe that your only survival path is self-erasure. Threshold seasons are where you learn to choose survival with dignity, not survival with resentment. And the fifth adjustment is to make room for receiving without turning it into chaos. Sometimes the delay exists because your system is afraid of what happens after the yes, afraid of visibility, afraid of responsibility, afraid of being watched, afraid of maintaining. So you practice small receiving, letting an invoice stand without apologizing, letting help land without deflecting, letting a compliment be true without shrinking, letting your work be valued without rushing to earn it again. Your nervous system learns safety through repetition. None of these adjustments are flashy. That's why they work. Because the threshold isn't asking you to become louder. It's asking you to become ready. And when you start moving like this, the after doesn't arrive as a sudden movie scene. It arrives as an internal climate shift. Before, you lived braced. Every quiet week felt like danger. Every delay felt like rejection. You kept trying to force the door, and the forcing made you tired. And the tiredness made you less strategic, and the less strategic you became, the more the delay seemed to confirm your fear. You weren't just building wealth, you were wrestling uncertainty. After, there's more calm in your body, not because everything is solved, but because you can read what season you're in without collapsing into self-blame. You begin to trust your timing instead of attacking it. You make cleaner decisions because your nervous system isn't screaming. You feel clarity return because you stop chasing noise. You feel self-respect deepen because you stop buying stability with your dignity. And that internal shift changes everything. It changes how you negotiate, how you price, how you choose clients, how you show up to opportunities, how you recover from no, how you hold the quiet weeks without turning them into a personal funeral. Transformation is internal first. The numbers usually follow later. But the deeper miracle is that you stop abandoning yourself while you wait for expansion. You become someone who can hold a delay without letting it destroy your identity. And that's when the threshold stops feeling like a prison. It starts feeling like preparation. If your money has felt delayed lately, where do you feel the threshold pressure most? Pricing, consistency, self-trust, fear of visibility, or taking misaligned work? And what would change if you treated this not yet as preparation for sustainable wealth instead of proof you're failing? A delayed breakthrough is often life protecting you from the collapse you'd call success, because wealth that arrives before structure becomes a blessing that breaks you, and the threshold is where stability is forged. If this episode gave language to what you're living, share in the comments where your delay has been loudest, and what you sense you're being asked to build before the next level arrives. Subscribe for more episodes that translate pressure into pattern, so your wealth can grow without costing you your nervous system.